Yo, folks, Coach Bryant here, BPC Performance Coaching, and I'm here to talk to you about dialing in your hydration and your hydration plan. This is stuff that I was totally unaware of uh, just as recently as 4 years ago. And it's information that we want to bring to you to help you dial in your plan. So, the two questions you need to ask yourself are: how sweaty are you? And how salty are you? Now, know that that is not me there, although in the summertime, there's probably a lot of people that ride bikes with me that might tell you that that's exactly what it's like riding behind me. And you can see over here, that actually is my hat. If you're someone who has salt crystals all over your body, if you get salt down your face, if deer are chasing you, trying to lick you because of the salt that's on you, this is especially important for you. So let's take it on down here. The main thing right here that we need to be kind of looking at is your sweat rate, so how sweaty you are, and your sodium loss. And I just wanted to get this little chart here to illustrate some of the extremes of this. And 500 milligrams, this is all stuff that we've actually tested people at. We've tested people above 1500 milligrams, and we've tested some below 500. The average has been just below 1,000 milligrams per liter, just to give you a reference point there. So Coach Dale, he's roughly 1,500. Coach Dale can sweat nearly 3 liters, right around 3 liters per hour when it's hot, when the intensity is high, and when the humidity is high. We're out of Memphis, Tennessee. We get a lot of humidity. And we're multiplying all of this. Traditional weekend workout session for us is in that 3 hours. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. But on the high end, 13,500 milligrams lost as a salty sweater that's a heavy sweater that's training for a 3 hour training block. All the way down to someone who's not salty and not sweaty, looking at what? Almost 1,200 milligrams, over 1,200 milligrams different. 12,000 milligrams different. So you can see there are some massive extremes, and the big multiplier here is your sweat rate. Sweat rate is something that can be calculated at home. All you got to do is weigh before and after a workout, account for the amount of fluid loss that you have. So what we do is we weigh before, or keep track of the amount of ounces that you've consumed. Weigh again after each time with no clothes on, so you can factor that out and see what your net loss of fluid is. If you are losing more than like 3 to 5% of your body weight per training session, then you're going to want to make sure you're trying to uptake more fluid. So scrolling down here, let's take this chart and let's look at, okay, what's that mean relative to different hydration products out there? I chose Gatorade. Gatorade's pretty similar to Powerade. That's what I was personally using before I found out that I'm a pretty high saltiness and I'm a very high sweat rate. So I've gone from Gatorade and Powerade over to Precision Hydration's 1,500 milligram per liter mix. So let's look at the difference here. These numbers, and get used to looking at nutrition charts. But over here, it's going to be tough to read, but 430 milligrams. So I went ahead and plugged that in up here. And then looking at this one, this is 750 milligrams per one tablet. And you're supposed to use 2 per 32 ounces, which is pretty close to a liter. It's not exact. So I put in the 1,500 milligrams up here. So take that salty and sweaty person. This is Coach Dale, and I'm almost there from a sodium standpoint. So take us in the summertime doing a really hard Hammerfest group ride, and we're looking at a need for roughly 9 bottles, or sorry, 3 bottles per hour consumed, and these are 24-ounce bottles, so 3 24-ounce bottles consumed per hour. Now, in order to get that same amount of sodium from a Gatorade at 430 milligrams per liter, this is their 32 ounce, it would be 10 and a half bottles per hour. Clearly, that's not realistic. We're not going to go into the fact that the uptake and the ability to uptake fluid and for your gut to actually process fluid is more like, studies are showing closer to like a liter per hour. But just to give you a feel there for the massive extreme that the amount of sodium in your bottles can have on the number of bottles you would have to consume to get your sodium levels the same as your sodium loss. Now, let's take a look at someone who's salty but not sweaty. So this is a very important factor and kind of shows you how important your sweat rate and knowing your sweat rate is. So that same person that was at 13,500 before is now down to 3,375. So that would be a total of 7.8 32-ounce bottles over the course of those 3 hours, which is now at 2.6 bottles per hour. Now take the person who's got 1,500 milligrams per 32-ounce bottle or solution there, and you're looking at under 1 bottle per hour. Massive, massive difference. And this is something that as I've dialed in my hydration, as I've really increased the amount of sodium I'm taking in per hour over the course of my rides, I've gone from finishing rides with a headache, lethargic, sometimes dizzy. I've had to have my wife come pick me up before. I've been thrown up on the side of the road. All of this because I was not consuming nearly enough sodium relative to my needs. Now, you may be asking yourself, how do you know how much sodium's in your sweat? That's something you actually have to get a test done for. We do sweat sodium testing here in Memphis. You can do a search through Precision Hydration to find out if there's a sweat tester near you. And then there's also some other methods out there as well, or other companies out there doing sweat testing. So if there's nothing from Precision Hydration in your area, you can look there. Now, some of the major takeaways. One thing, looking at these nutrition labels, I know some of you may be saying, don't get distracted by Elvis over my shoulder here, maybe wondering about the other electrolytes. We've been talking heavy about sodium here. Potassium is also something that you lose a decent amount of in your sweat, and you'll see this Gatorade over here, 120 milligrams versus 130, which is actually 260. Calcium, magnesium being your other two. You're not going to lose them at the same amount, the same volume that you lose sodium. So we focus primarily on that sodium aspect and the potassium. Calcium, magnesium is something that you generally will be able to make up for before and after. So going down to our major takeaways here, if you have a high sweat rate, you are at a much greater risk of running into hydration-related issues, loss of sodium, electrolyte-style issues, cramping, headaches, wanting to hold down a couch the rest of the day when you get home from a training session or a race. If you have a high sweat sodium concentration, you are at a greater risk of running into these issues as well, like we just chatted about. Number 3, you should calculate your sweat rate often and do that over various temperatures and intensities. So in the wintertime, when I'm going easy, I'm not sweating that much. I don't need to drink that much. If I'm doing a 1-hour training session that's moderate, even if it's really hot in the summertime, I don't run into issues. I can make up for those sodium losses before my workout and after my workout. But for me, anything that's longer, anything that's harder, and anything that's hot, when my sweat rate kicks up, I have to make sure I'm really focused on the amount of sodium I'm getting into my body. And lastly, we're looking for a dartboard versus the bullseye here. Your body does a good job of storing what it needs, and your body is good at handling somewhat of a deficit. Now, the issue you get into is where those imbalances become too great. I should have added a fifth one. The fifth one is, if you're a sweaty person, if you're a salty person, you've got to have more than just straight water in your bottles. Take this very serious. Some of the biggest issues I've come into have been drinking a whole lot of water while getting rid of a whole lot of sweat and salt, and that's put me at a very, very bad position with hyponatremia. So that's a deadly possibility. Don't let it happen to you. Just a quick peek here. We got Steve Firm the Term over here, 470 milligrams per liter. You cannot tell what a person's saltiness is based on looking at them. Elvis over here, if you've been in the Mid-South, you've likely seen Elvis possibly singing the national anthem. He's at 839. Myself, 1207. Our two friends here coming in at 1105 and 962. Coach Dale, 1453. And give us a drum roll. The highest that we personally have tested, not the highest that's been tested by Precision Hydration, 1780 milligrams per liter. Total game changer for her because of her level of saltiness. So hopefully this has been helpful for you. Scrolling back up here, it took me a while to find this and get it put into this. So give us the like, hit subscribe, hit that little bell as well, and we'll be bringing you more performance enhancing content. Once again, I'm Coach Bryant. I hope you all have a tremendous day.